I've inspected this Dickory Dickory Dock Clock on a previous video, so we'll get into fixing issues found. This unknown glue between the hour wheel cannon will need to be broke loose. The hour wheel to cannon fit up has a Morse taper on them, so not sure why it was glued. Surface of this movement is clean. However, next to the pivots, there's fresh oil mixed with grungy dirt, a sign someone did a quick dip in a cleaner tank and oil job without taking it apart. Escape wheel, fourth wheel, intermediate wheel, mainspring assembly. A lot of brass chips from something here on the arbor. Third and second wheel, center wheel. I see one of the center wheel pinion leaves is damaged. It shouldn't affect fit, form, or function, so no need to repair. This hour wheel fit up to the cannon flange is loose. It's been peened and hammered on in the past. Fit up of the main wheel to its arbor needs some attention. And this click needs replacing or a new wire spring installed. Main wheel is held snug with these 4 punch marks in the brass shoulder. I'm going to remove the wheel, so we'll need to work the brass down to clear the friction washer diameter. First I'll form the brass so it's closer to its center. Now there will be less to cut off. Remove a small amount of brass and the washer should slide off. A couple small taps. Nice. Fit up looks fair, but it's loose. Right on the borderline. As long as it's apart, probably best to make the fit closer. Remove this click rivet. Original click can be saved with a new click spring. The click rivet. I used some high-density particle board for the faceplate. A wood faceplate is by far the most accurate faceplate that can be used for this. The workpiece just needs a slight pressure from several screws to hold it in place. First I'll clean and true the center hole. I've cut a brass plug for the center hole, then peened it over on both sides. Now to true it up to the face of the gear. Sleeve has a nice fit. Barely noticeable even when you know what to look for. Much better fit. Now to fit a new click spring. I'll use some high tension spring steel. Perfect size. Shape the spring. Fabricate a rivet. Flare the rivet to lock it in place. This shim gives the click some clearance against the main wheel. Prevents the click from binding while in use. I've peened the brass over the friction washer. Fit up is good now. I've marked with masking tape the pivot holes that need bushings. Almost all of them in this movement. A lot of wear on these. Someone has scratched Roman and Arabic numerals on all the wheels in this movement. Even the escape wheel has been scratched on. This front plate has been pounded on and is bent from the original flat configuration. There's tool marks from whatever tool was used to bend it. This bushing was too long. Someone filed it down shorter after it was installed and scratched the plate. I'll press it out, install and fabricate a new one. I've installed several bushings. Now to do a fit check. Pivot on the fourth wheel needs attention. It's severely worn and has a crack almost all the way through it. The surface of the pivot has tool marks on it. Looks like someone had a pair of serrated jawed pliers on it. Wonder if they grabbed the pivot, twisted it, and caused this crack. Another butcher who left their handiwork. Gouged tool mark on this shoulder is deep. Sad case here. Check the length. Cut the majority of the damaged pivot off. File the pivot down close to the shoulder. Wow, looks like a butcher got to the gear wheel as well. I'll deal with this after the new pivot is installed. Cut a center for the drill bit. Some oil. Drill nice and slow to prevent the drill bit from breaking. I've pressed the new pivot in place Now to bring it to rough length. Just right. Now to rough polish. And final polish. Now to true this wheel up. Smooth jawed pliers, a needle indicator to get it closer. Time to fabricate a bushing for the fourth wheel. Bushings all installed. Now to do another fit check. Escape wheel, fourth wheel, third wheel, second wheel, main wheel, rear plate, nice. Just a little pressure on the great wheel with this needle and the movement eases into motion. Not much friction on the train anymore since the pivots and bushings are in good shape. Tool marks on this cannon flange from a butcher. Looks like it was put in a vise and pounded on with all these tool marks on it. And here the flange has been hammered over the gear. All these flanges need is 4 punched indentations from a staking tool to get an interference fit. It's all boogered up and it's still loose. The gear wheel is warped into a cup shape from the stress the peening caused. Hopefully it won't affect the fit up to the pinion. Not sure what happened here on the end of the cannon. It has several gouged cuts here and a chipped away sidewall on the end of it. Center wheel looks loose in the cannon, but that's normal. Center wheel arbor has tool marks on it. Ugly, but it won't affect anything. Even tool marks on this side of the arbor. Here's that chipped pinion leaf again. Should work just fine. An anvil with holes is used to safely back up the cannon flange for staking. Then a staking punch of correct size is used to snug the cannon to the wheel. If this doesn't work, drilling some small holes and installing several brass pins can be done. Nice and tight now. Do a fit-up check. It's binding. There's no end shake clearance. Source of the problem is this bent front plate. It's better than 30 thousandths of an inch. It's going to need to be corrected without leaving a bunch of tool marks like these. This small anvil will work to back it up, as long as it has some heavier backup anvils under it. I'll start out using these shims with some paper on them to prevent tool marks on the brass plate. Perfect. Rotates nice and free now. Recheck the end shake on these wheels after straightening the front plate. They all look excellent. They mesh smooth together, very little friction. This is going to be a nice running movement. Now to deal with this bent arbor. I'll use this straightening tool made from aluminum. The aluminum won't leave any tool marks. It won't take all of it out, but will remove most of the bend area with minimal distortion to the arbor. Looking good so far. The arbor is missing a brass lock collar on the back side where my fingers are. I'll fabricate one later for it. Nice. This drive wheel for the mouse pinion needs some attention. The runout is off so much, it's rubbing the mouse pinion assembly. It's lifting the assembly away from the movement. More anvil tool marks here. And the flange has been pounded on and peened over on this side. The gear wheel has been warped from the peening. Remains of dark gray and clear adhesive here. It should be removed, so we can see what is left to work with. Now to take a look at replacing the mouse tail. This is definitely not original. It's some type of rubber cement. They didn't have this stuff around in 1910. This wasn't stuck in very far. It's black leather. I can make a replacement out of black leather or some off-white leather. Off-white would blend better with the white mouse. I don't think there are many white mice out there with black tails. Time to wet form the leather tail into a round tapered shape. Mount it on the leather stretcher. I'll curl the wet leather into itself and bind it with some copper binding wire. Now to set it aside to dry. On the back side of the mouse, the hole for the tail enters this large counterboard access hole. It's to help with mounting the tail from the back side. Originally, the tails were mounted before they were fastened to the clock. Best to mount it without removing the mouse if possible. These 4 movement fastener holes are all too large. I'll need to plug them with some wood so I can secure the movement. Now to test the mouse pulley outside the case with this block of wood. This mouse drive wheel has 2 missing teeth. It's a 12-hour wheel. Every 12 hours, the mouse pinion enters the part of the wheel with the missing teeth. The pinion leaves are disengaged from the mouse drive wheel, and the mouse free falls to the bottom of the clock. Here, the missing section of teeth are just about to reach the pinion. Seems to work. Let's look at it from a different angle. The string should wind on the spool uniform without crossing each other. The missing teeth, about to meet the mouse pinion, works nice and smooth. The tail is dry now. Cut it free. It formed nice and round, just like a mouse tail. This wedged in nice and snug. Time to cut the excess off. Some minor shaping, and should last a long time. The mouse pulley in slow motion. Now to connect the mouse to the string. The nose of the mouse needs to be aligned with the 1 o'clock mark. The bracket for the mouse lifts the bell hammer when it's at the top of its motion. When the mouse drops, the bell hammer is released and the bell rings. Happens too fast to see clearly. Let's look at it in slow motion. Now to make that lock collar for the mouse pulley arbor. Some miscellaneous aircraft screws from a supply house. This one looks like it'll work. Perfect length. Now to find a tap for it. I have dies if I end up needing to make the screw. A number 3 is the right size. Center punch for the screw hole. Pilot hole. Drill to full size. Tap the threads. Perfect. Looking good. Get this installed and it's about ready to mount on the wall. Looks great. A nice original Model 4 Dickory Dickory Dock Clock, patented in 1910.